why we do tests. That is going to be the topic of this episode of Qi Life. So as part of the Long White Cloud Qigong comprehensive 200-hour Qigong instructor certification programs, you'll notice I did say comprehensive because they are very detailed. We have tests as part of that process. At the end of those courses, we have quite a comprehensive testing process. And this includes a written test. It includes demonstrations where people have to show themselves doing different practices. And then also, you can consider it an oral test, sort of an interview sort of test as well, where we discuss things together. So yeah, 3 parts to that testing or assessment process. And some people, when they've been doing the courses or even before starting the courses and they've found out that there are assessments, they've commented on this. In particular, maybe in comparison to other training that they've done, where sometimes there are different courses, whether it be for Qigong or possibly for yoga or other sorts of things, where basically they just you just do the course and at the end you get a certificate. There's not any assessment that's done there. And so they've often when people first hear there's an assessment or test, they might be a little bit nervous about it, like, they haven't done any tests since they were in high school or university or something. Maybe it wasn't something they particularly enjoyed back then. Maybe they feel a little bit of pressure about being tested and things like that. But for the most part, my experience has been that because often people will do they'll do one of the Long White Cloud Qigong courses and enjoy it so much, really love what they learn and experience and the benefits they get from it, and then they want to do another one because each of the courses focus on different practices, different principles, and they're like, I want to learn more. And so they end up doing tests multiple times relating to different practices and principles. And having done a test once, they then start to really recognize the value of it. And a lot of them even say that they actually look forward to and enjoy the tests, once they've got past their initial nervousness, or sense of pressure around it. And so I thought this could be an interesting topic to just talk about why we do these tests and sort of the approach that we take to the testing, because the testing is done in a very supportive way. I consider it to be part of the learning process. So it's not just about being tested as such. That is part of it, because these are instructor certification courses. The idea is that you do one of these courses and at the end you have sufficient understanding, sufficient ability to demonstrate and understand the principles behind a variety of different Qigong practices, to the extent that you're able to teach them effectively, able to lead and guide other people so that they can gain the benefit of those practices. And to do that, you really need to know what you're doing. So part of it is a test to make sure that people meet a particular standard. But a big part of it is also part of the learning itself. Because there's real value in, okay, we learn something and go through and like, okay, that's nice. But then going back and essentially checking on your knowledge, consolidating your knowledge, reaffirming to yourself your understanding of that principle of whatever it is. And so within these courses, we cover a lot of different practices, a lot of different principles, and it's over the courses, each of the ones that we currently have available, they're over 15 weeks, so almost 4 months. And people are going through, focusing on one thing, focusing on another thing, focusing on another thing, continuing with different aspects of practice. But, getting to the end, it can be quite easy to sort of lose sight or lose track of some of the principles and things that maybe you covered early on, and going back through and essentially having a review, an overview of all of those principles really helps to bring it all together so you can see how all of the parts fit, how they all relate to one another. And that then gives you a richer understanding. It gives you a more solid base to understand all of the parts, all of the principles, and how they work together. And so the way we do this is, again, there is a testing aspect, making sure people understand the practices and can do them, understand the principles. But we do it in a really supportive way. We try to make sure that people are really well prepared for these tests, these assessments at the end of the programs. We do that we have a lot of interaction on the courses. We have Q&A sessions every week where people can ask anything they like, and we discuss about all sorts of things to do with the practices and the principles and their experiences. We have group practice sessions where obviously we do practices together, but also there's often also discussion about little points of the practice, things like that. And then in addition to that, they also have one-on-one sessions with senior instructors where they're able to get feedback on their practice and ask more questions and so on. And so by the time they actually get to those final assessments, they're really well prepared. And then it's really just a final putting everything together for them. A final check. A check not just for me, from the school side, the Long White Cloud Qigong side, but a check for themselves to be able to have that overview and put everything that they've studied together. And as a result of that, it gives people, I think, a lot more confidence in their knowledge and their ability. And so that's great. So psychologically, that then actually helps them to retain the knowledge better, because they're not just like, oh, I'm not sure. They actually have confidence in what they've learned. And so it solidifies it within their memory. And they're able to, retain that and draw that out when they need it more easily. They'll keep that knowledge for longer. And also, because not everyone who does the courses is actually planning on teaching. There's quite a few people who do it just for their own enjoyment, their own benefit, the understanding of the practices. It also, for those who do want to teach, it gives them much more confidence that, hey, I do know this. I'm able to understand it. I understand the context of how all this fits together. And as a result of that, they're able to then have more confidence when it comes to teaching, to explaining, to demonstrating things for other people as well. So that's why we do tests. Again, it can seem a little bit daunting to some people to begin with, depending on what their past experience with tests has been. But it's a very positive experience. It's a very beneficial part of the learning process. It really helps. I think it's really important that we have that, particularly for these courses, which are instructor certification courses. So both as a check and as a way to deepen and consolidate those course participants' knowledge. All right. Hope you've enjoyed the vlog. I look forward to seeing you on another one soon.